and the price is listed in dollars,
Prospera
even the menu
Travels.
is actually, I think it's even harder to find things being written in Spanish. So that I think is a very strong key point that makes transition easier. Like if you visit, they accept cards everywhere. In Honduras we accept cards like a lot. So you're able to pay for most of things with your credit card or your card. A lot of commerce now, thanks to the Bitcoin Center, are also accepting Bitcoin. I think they have more than 30 businesses already enrolled.
Good times.
You can pay cash. So it's, in that sense, it's like a very easy transition. There are the English Creole is also spoken, but they speak both English Creole and English. So you can get by with just English.
That is way cool. English speaking, Caribbean island, dollars, Bitcoin, business friendly. Very, very cool formula. That is, highly duly noted. What was I going to say? Oh, right. I know this subject has come up several times, and that is the question of residency and getting residency in Honduras to stay longer than whatever the visa-free allotment is given to, people's respective passports. So I would imagine there are immigration facilitators and specialists that are connected with Prospera that can help people with that, because I know that's a very big issue that I get. I can't tell you, probably 6 or 7 messages a day from Mexico, and I tell them every immigration office in Mexico is very different. They interpret rules very differently. So I'm just curious to know what the situation in general is like in Honduras.
I'm not sure if somebody else in this meeting has already done that residency process. I personally haven't, so I cannot speak too much about that. But I do know it's not that hard. There's a lot of, I can recommend a couple of local law firms that can just basically do that process for you. And you have, if I'm not mistaken, up to 180 days that you can say, without getting a residency. However, if you do want to get a Prospera residency, you first need to get an Honduran residency. So Prospera residency doesn't, it doesn't equate, right, to just like a normal country residence. You first have to go through the normal migration process, and then you apply to a Prospera permanent residency. That's how it works. But from what I've heard, yes, it's bureaucratic like every other Central American country, but nothing extraordinary.
Makes sense, because I know, like, just to harken back to Mexico, a lot of people, they're like, oh, use this lawyer or that lawyer. And the truth is that in Mexico, in many cases, people do not need lawyers. There are sort of these pseudo lawyers that are kind of like paralegals, sort of. Called facilitators that help people and steer them to the right immigration office. And so there is that kind of a situation. Every Mexican consulate overseas is very different from each other. There's good ones, there's not good ones. There's good immigration offices in Mexico and not good ones. But yeah, I've met some lawyers in Honduras, and they seem to indicate to me that if you have, a certain income level or a certain amount of assets, and you're a, clean, above the board person, it's a fairly straightforward thing, and not to be discouraged. So there is that. But yeah, no, that's something that I would imagine many people, particularly those that will be purchasing or have purchased at Duna, are going to maybe want to take a look at. That's something that I know after I visit that I'm going to most likely want to look at is Honduran residency and purchasing at Duna or purchasing at other buildings that may be constructed in the zone, because, it's nice to be able to stay more indefinitely at your property. I typically do not purchase property in places that I don't have citizenship or I don't have residency, simply because I like having that kind of a legal connection to the place first. But no, that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that info.
I haven't found this information on the website, but maybe someone here can help. Where can we visitors stay on these grounds? How we can book a place to stay for a short term, like 2-3 weeks?
I think once Duna is done, some of us who are not living there full time, they have the option to rent it out to people through a program. So I think Duna is going to offer short to medium term rental options for people looking more of an apartment style thing rather than a hotel.
But for now, there are hotels they can look up, right?
There's a resort there, yeah, that has hotel rooms, I believe. I think it's fairly expensive. I don't know how available it is, but that's my understanding.
Cool, thank you. And just to understand, what is Duna?
It's the first big residential tower going up there. It's, I think, going to be 14 stories in total, 80 something units, some parking and some commercial and office space involved. So it's like a big residential development that's happening within the Prospera grounds.
When is it scheduled to be completed?
In May, it should be done.
Awesome. Good times.
That is super exciting. That's really exciting stuff. I mean, May is going to be here. We're going to wake up in 2 or 3 days and poof, May is here. I think that's only going to further
2 or 3 days.
Accelerate things. So it's really cool. I see we have Andros Mountain that has joined us. I don't know if Andros Mountain would like to do an introduction. And I think Vic, we got some people that have, Ben, I see. Oh, he introduced himself. So, yeah, no, very cool.
This is Andrew Mount. How is everyone?
Hi, Andrews
I've
Mountain.
been working with Vic DeSatel for a number of months, and we've known each other for over 20 years. We've decided to relocate to Roatan for all the aforementioned reasons, and I'm very grateful to be tuned into this opportunity.
Very cool. That is awesome. That is a really good thing. And I think what's cool about Prospera is that it's not just you could look at it and say, well, it has shades of being a network state. It's a zone, but it's a lot of different things concurrently, which I think gives it a lot of advantages. I was last hour, Mason and I and a few others in here were at the Palau meeting, and Palau's great, looks beautiful, palm trees, beautiful also, and that counts. The thing is, it's a lot more remote than Roatan, right? I mean, to get to Palau, many cases people got to do Hawaii, Guam, and then finally Palau, or they got to go in through Manila in the Philippines, or sometimes Taiwan when there's a seasonal charter. But it seems to me that, comparatively speaking, Roatan is much better connected. I think a number of years ago, there was a charter or a seasonal flight from the Caymans down to Roatan. I don't know if that's, still happening or going to come back. That would be a really amazing thing, simply because there's a lot of economic activity in the Caymans, and Prospera is a natural, it fits sort of like a glove. You're going to be able to get things done a lot easier and more efficiently, and probably for a lot less money in Prospera than you would the Caymans. I know a lot of people in the Caymans that do a lot of great business there, but it is not an inexpensive place to set up shop. So, there is also that. And the other thing, too, is Roatan being, as I know pointed out earlier, not such a small island, means that there is room to grow, and that places in the zone or even immediately outside of the zone are sure to benefit from a lot of the amazing work that is going on at Prospera. So, room to grow is another really important thing. I've also spent quite a bit of time and do spend time in Monaco, and it's a fantastic place, although it's very densely populated. Certainly is not an inexpensive place, but there's not a lot of room to grow, right? So they do land reclamation, or there's a lot of back end stuff that has to be done in France, and that gets real complicated real fast. I think it's fantastic that Prospera has room to grow. My understanding, if I remember right, is the zone also has some land on the mainland, I think. I don't know if someone knows a little bit more about that and how that interplays with things.
They do have some space on the mainland. I think the idea there was that would be more of a light manufacturing area, and they can be connected by drones. But I think, the residential and commercial development is all aimed at happening on the island, from my understanding of things. And also, in case anyone's curious, in the chat there, I just sent some pictures of the Duna residence. The first one is the current state, and the second one is kind of the rendering of what it'll look like complete.
Yeah, that's very cool. I've been meaning to get into the Duna thing. I've just gotten so sidetracked the last few months. I know excuses, but that's the other thing too. As someone that has about a 20-year background in real estate, particularly residential real estate, I would imagine there are any number of opportunities in the zone. And the elephant in the room is, of course, there is a little bit of ambiguity going on with in relation to the national government in Tegucigalpa. But the thing to remember is, for those that have invested in Duna, and I know you and I, Mason, have chatted about this with other people, is, you still own the property. It's not like magically everything's going to get nationalized if, God forbid, the worst case scenario should unfold, and I don't think it will. What's wrong with having property on a beautiful Caribbean island that speaks English speaking, that's somewhat well connected, probably will be better connected. So, there's still value there. There's a lot of value there. Anyway you slice it. So that's something that I'm taking into serious and strong consideration. Because, come on, who doesn't like beautiful sunsets and palm trees and beaches and the water? It's a really cool thing. And so I think that, that cannot be overstated enough.
Just out of curiosity, how many people on this call have reserved a unit in Duna, or have plans to do so?
Yeah, I can pitch in here. So I reserved a unit, and I also know a number of other people, probably around 10 to 15 other people who've also reserved units.
So I was thinking, I don't know, Nicholas, what you're thinking, but it would be kind of nice to coordinate maybe your general conference with the completion of Duna residence, maybe, a couple weeks afterwards, so that people who are going down to take possession could also participate in the conference, especially the ones who are not moving there permanently. It'd be nice to kind of go get the residence and then also make use of it and get to know people, or even if we don't do an Infinita conference, just a general, scheduled time when everyone goes down and meets down there. I think it'd be kind of a cool thing to do.
I think Mr. Nicholas, I don't see him as logged in any longer to this call. We'll probably wind it down pretty soon, but I think that's a fantastic idea. One of the things that I'm thinking of, just again, with my own experiences in Mexico and having been, having different bases in different places and being involved with different expat groups, digital nomad groups, freelancer groups, you name it, is sometimes even just a simple basic how-to guide, like a how-to,
Right.
I think Prospera has that, how to get here and what to expect and things like that. I think a lot of that stuff is really instrumental so that people feel it's a lot more
Competitive governance.
familiar to them. They are not
Competitive.
as intimidated. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I think a lot of folks that are coming to Prospera are fairly intrepid people to begin with, or have experiences in Latin America or living abroad, and it's not necessarily their first rodeo, which is good. But I think for folks that maybe it is their first rodeo, or they're new to all of this stuff, it might be good to have a really easy. I think Jay Robertson had a video on this, or was promoting a video, an introductory video. I think stuff like that is incredibly useful. Not as a PR thing by any means, although I guess it serves that purpose as well. More as a functional, a utilitarian, pragmatic type thing. So I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, that's something that, if I were not, so busy with other things, I'd probably do myself, but I gotta get there first. Get a feel for things, because, seeing is believing, and everybody's experiences are going to be different from the next guy or the next gal or whatever it is. And that's totally okay. But, I think it's fantastic
now
that
perceive
May
2 minute
tentatively
request.
Duna's looking like it's going to be done, and I think there are other projects that are going to be started or are getting started out there. So really cool stuff, very cool stuff. I know, Mason, you and I had also talked about the possibility of a marina in Prospera, and I think that could be a very, very cool thing. I'm still that's still on one of my lists of things to further look into. I don't know where we all stand with that, but yeah, no, I'm as excited as ever. I think that the future, of course, is bright, and it's just great. It's just great to see so much traction. Not only with Prospera, but across the space, and that's something that I feel real good about. So I'll put a bookmark in it there, and if anyone else would like to chime in, that would be really amazing as we wind down this call.
Hey, Vic Desitel here. How's everybody doing? I thought I'd chime in, as you mentioned, Andrew, just real quick. I'm one of the folks that's going through the process of getting myself moved to the island, and I'm committed to developing a startup there. So I'm doing the business process as well as the residential, everything from looking at land throughout the island to possibly leaning toward right now buying a small residence in the Dunas. So I've got some hands-on experience being at the island. This is for people that are entrepreneurial nature. In other words, not everything goes smoothly yet, and you have to, take the reins yourself often and move forward on your own. So you got to have that momentum and that motivation. But anyone that wants to reach out to me offline or on the side, give me a shout, and I'll let you know some things that I've learned just as a newbie stepping into the island process in Prospera. I'm out with that.
Right on, Vic. Big thanks, and I hope to see you there pretty soon. Thank you. And certainly, thank you to everyone for tuning in. And, the best is yet to come. And I hope to meet many of you, if not all of you, in Prospera, or even, outside of the zone. So, for those that may be traveling to Mexico, feel free to hit me up. If anyone's going to be in the Mediterranean world, let me know. I vacillate between the two. So, I'm there. And it's all good. And this is very cool. We'll probably do another one of these sometime next month, is my guess. And I'm sure there will be more interesting and exciting developments as we get closer to May and Duna. So again, a big thanks to everyone. Mason, if there's anything you want to add as we close this out.
no, thanks for you organizing this, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to going to meet everyone there. It's exciting,
card.
and hopefully,
A really
we should
foxy
get some
card though.
clarity from the government in this
Look.
lawsuit relatively soon, and then I think after that
That
we'll
looks
see
terrible.
a big
Co-founder.
explosion of growth if it turns out the way we're hoping it will. So.
Yeah, real fast on that. I mean, people that I've been chatting with that seem to be in the know on that subject are of the opinion that, you know what, the next election cycle, it's very possible that things are going to be a lot more Prospera friendly, more Zeddy friendly in the country. So hopefully that'll be the case. I don't know if it's the case. So we'll see. I think, to be continued, as they say, to be continued. But you're right, that is something to set alerts to and to be cognizant of, that there is that going on. For those that are not in the know, my understanding is that the United States State Department and some United States senators have weighed in favor of nearshoring and in favor of the Zeddies like Prospera Morazan being, upheld by Honduras, and that there is a push on the part of the United States to, have nearshoring and have things being made close to the United States as opposed to other parts of the world, namely Greater China. And, I think that makes sense. And certainly, it has to be noted that there is a, migration issue that the United States is facing, and it is certainly in their interest to see a healthy, prosperous Honduras, for sure. It's in everybody's best interest. So when interests align, usually really good things happen. So there's a lot to be really, really hopeful for. But again, it's to be continued, so I don't know if anybody has some inside information that they are able to divulge. I don't have any other information other than stuff that's been made publicly available, or, certain remarks that people have made to me over the last few weeks and months. But it's something to keep an eye out for. I would imagine that a lot of the powers that be do want to see the Zeddies blossom. That's just my guess, but you never know. You never know how these things come down. So, but very cool, very cool.
Oof, you have a lot of followers. Look.
All right, thank you for putting this together, and it was nice hearing everyone, and I wish everyone the best of luck this year, and I guess see you around.
Yeah, nice meeting everyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Andrew, for putting this together.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Andrew, this is the last meeting for today, right? Or there's anything else coming up?
That's a wrap. On Tuesday, Catawba will have its meeting. That's the Native American jurisdiction in the southeast of the United States. I think it's North Carolina, South Carolina. Folks like Joe McKinney, Startup Societies, a couple of really cool people are going to be in that meeting on Tuesday. That was going to happen sometime today, but due to scheduling issues, it will be on Tuesday. So yes, that is a wrap. We are over and out.
Perfect. Thank you. That was a really good idea to host this. I'll support you in producing the next one. Okay? We should talk.
Cool. Thank you. It means a lot to me. It really does. Keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you. You too. Bye. Good night. Good times. All those Andrews working so well with me. It's like telepathic almost. What is that about Andrews, Andres, and Andes? It's like we worked so much together to make sure that name is decentralized well. So yeah, what up, Luke? What do you want me to look at, Luke? Okay, this is the file protocol. Okay. Own your identity again. You know, the greatest trend in all of this is owning your identity, you know? It really is. Just seeing. Look, my loves, I don't like Twitter. I really don't. I think Telegram has so much more potential on where to go further in the game. Let's just listen to this if we can. But, oh yeah, I realized I have the account here. I forgot that, you know, this is the thing that we are signed into Twitter in our journey this time around. Because last time I was doing this series of YouTuber, you know, confessions. I didn't feel like even going to Twitter, but now here I am. Thanks, Musk.
Today
Thank
we'll
you for
be
having us.
talking. Yeah, today we'll be talking about the Web3 domains. I mean, most people are probably familiar. People who are listening right now, people who will be listening the record on the YouTube. But I have a few specific questions about the actual, you know, public addresses that we do, you know, sending cryptos. So if you're okay.
Okay, actually, you know, let's take a break and let's unfold what just happened. We had four meetings led by ND star.mc with Tilata, with Seastanding Institute and the yeah, those people. Then we had God, what was it? The Prospera people, and oh yeah, and Palau e-residency people. I think that's it. Yeah, four of them, and it was great because at the best, at the height of it, 20 people showed up, I believe, the Prospera one. I've been involved with a lot of people because, you know, Metaslavs everywhere we go. And I've been also meeting people from the U-Justice. Apparently Tilata is a forked project of U-Justice. And I'm very interested in e-residencies because I am, an e-resident of Estonia. And yeah, and then Prospera is like, you know, this business state on top of the Honduras island, which is super cute. I'd love to visit it before it gets washed away. Washed away. Oh, we're in 2020 already, EOS. Don't believe in EOS. Don't. Just something's off. Brock is cute. I think he's super interesting persona. And Burning Man 2019 meeting. Yeah, like I don't think EOS is gonna get us anywhere. Honestly, 99%. I said it 0.9 actually. A percent of ooh, so cute. Blockchain technologies will be over in the next year and a half, 2 years or so. So we'll have to be able to rebuild anew. Yeah, rebuild anew. And we'll see who's going to be providing that leadership for us, because right now everyone's just a little bit like a chicken without heads, running around trying to, you know, make sense of the whole space of these opportunities. And what's up with those heads, rabbis? Okay. God. Yeah, no, look, I really dislike Twitter. I just don't like it. I think it's super messy. I don't like anything that is messy. You know, at least I know you can organize things and just look at feeds based on your lists. But it's so much easier to create lists on Twitter, on Telegram, and also Telegram has now a capacity to create subgroups within a group like Discord. So, I mean, Discord has been dead for me since it started. I never liked that I had too many accounts on Discord just because I forgot passwords, stuff like that, and or it's been overfilled and I didn't dare to, just like go and leave every single, group I've joined on Discord. Too much noise. I love way too much noise.
Every picture ever painted and every film ever shot could be viewed instantly in your home via an information superhighway, a high-capacity digital communications network.
Amazing.
What that would mean is you could transform your home into a mammoth interactive entertainment centre with the odd stock exchange and shopping centre thrown in. It sounds pretty grand, but it all comes down to computers communicating. And in fact, that's already happening on something called the internet, that anyone in the world with a computer and a modem to connect it to a telephone line can subscribe to. There are over 20 million people connected up. And one person in particular I know is connected is the American President, Bill Clinton. And I know that because I used this computer to write to him today, and I've already got a reply from the White House. And here it is, right. Thank you for writing to President Clinton via electronic mail. The President is committed to integrating this dynamic medium into the White House. And it goes on to give some details of his government's policy to encourage the building of information superhighways. Now, I can't electronically mail our Prime Minister, John Major, because he hasn't got a modem. And I can't find out what his government's policy on information superhighways is, because it hasn't got one. At least nothing beyond the usual thing of leaving it to market forces. But you can do more than just send messages on the internet. There's loads of useful information in here. You can get news, recipes, and I found this satellite weather map in there. And there are interactive services as well. This is a shopping centre. And here it says it's just off the information superhighway. That's its address. And inside, there's a flower shop. And it shows me the picture of the flowers I can order and tells me how much they cost. Then all I have to do is tap in the address I want them to go to, and of course I have to give them my credit card details to pay. And there's even some stuff about us in here. Let me just find that for you, because we've just put some details on the internet about tonight's programme and some pictures as well.
Picture opening in a separate window. Amazing. Did you hear the news that Microsoft might be buying OpenAI? Oh, ChatGPT, right. That product. Imagine Microsoft. Back to square zero. Ready?
$1 billion to $100,000. Yeah.
How did he go from crypto hero to crypto supervillain?
Today, a lot of people look at you and see Bernie Madoff.
GMA tomorrow, Sam Bankman-Fried, one-on-one with George Stephanopoulos. What happened to the billions people invested with him?
What is the talent that you have that convinced people they should invest billions of dollars?
He was on top of the world.
You got all these celebrities. You did it in a big way.
Yeah.
Have you gotten calls from any of the celebrities who endorsed you?
But now...
Are you worried about going to jail?
And what led to this?
That's a pretty stunning admission.
The breaking news.
You know, one of the reasons why I always wanted to become, not always, but at some point started to really want to become a journalist is because you have the balls to ask all those questions and just really put people in some real uncomfortable spaces to answer those. I really like. I really like that idea. Asking questions. I feel like when I go back to like 3 months before, I already feel bored, you know, it feels like so expired, this info, you know, and that's why, you know, I'm all about figuring out what in archiving would be actually valuable and what would be a waste of energy. Brock, you got your YouTube channel, huh? Let's go. Brock vote. Oh no, Brockchick, where is your website, dear love? Where is it, Brock? 2 months ago, Crypto Mondays, and 11 months ago. Okay, we can listen to these two. You and I. Rocking Brock. Rocking Brock. Brockchick. You know, when you have me saying chick, like Brockchick, in the end of it, it's a good sign. It's a good sign. Really. Brockchick, Lukchick, Lukchick. Did you hear that, Luke?
Okay, same hands.
And started to understand really the opportunity that
This
existed
guy.
in crypto was 100% based on the understanding of what blockchain was, right? So it's interesting that we're talking about the philosophy of, cryptocurrency, because I truly believe that when people actually know the philosophy and really the understanding of what it actually is, then you remove all doubt as to whether or not this is viable, whether it has any future, and whether or not you're going to see, triple entry ledger replace double entry ledger, and you recognize the opportunity that exists because every business in the world, even the ones that we own and operate or are affiliated with in today's society, 99.9998% of them are on a double entry bookkeeping, and at some point they'll all be run on triple entry bookkeeping. So that's your opportunity.
I remember you did a video on that. I thought it was beautiful. You were just talking to your phone out in Dubai, and it was the idea of double entry accounting, obviously, these credits and debits. This triple entry is the verification of those credits and debits, verification of the transfers without any kind of third party that you have to trust, which is our current financial system. You've got the check clearinghouse, you've got the central bank system, you've got some really, frankly, some corrupt situation where people can just print billions or trillions of dollars. That's literally stealing from all of us via inflation. Our purchasing power, even the heads of the SEC or the heads of the Federal Reserve, they're just like, well, we can promise you the money, we just can't promise you the purchasing price of the money. And they just get it. That's how it is. And when I first gave talks in 2013 about Bitcoin, I went into, again, like a brief history of money. Why does any of this matter? A lot of people don't know the Federal Reserve System is actually the third attempt of the United States of a kind of a banking system like we have today. There was the first Bank of the United States, which we actually had a free press back then, and they demonized them for the evil people that they were. They called out the actual heads of the bank to say, this is horrible, don't do this. And in that deck, if you want to check it out, there's some quotes there from Thomas Jefferson. Other people, they're just saying, this is the worst thing you can do for human freedom. Like, giving people control of the issuance of money will destroy your ability to do commerce and everything else. So there's some themes in the Bitcoin community and the cryptocurrency community that if you fix the money, you can fix the world. That so many of the problems we point to and say, that's really messed up and that's broken and we need to vote harder next time and get different politicians. Really, it is the measuring stick of value itself got disrupted and distorted. And it really happened pretty significantly in 1913 with the Federal Reserve Act. Also the same year, they had a federal tax system. Prior to that, we didn't even have one other than for wars. And then going forward, you've got 1944, after the world was kind of bombed to hell, the BRICS, the idea that we can shift all the currencies of the world to the US dollar, peg it to the US dollar, and then peg the US dollar to gold. This Bretton Woods Agreement was kind of the reshaping of the world. We became the 7th world reserve currency. There were 6 before us after that, or prior to that. And it's this idea that come 1971, you get this complete disconnect from that promise that the United States essentially made to the world, that we're going to keep our dollar pegged to gold. 1971 Nixon shock, they just said, we're just not going to do that anymore. It was one of the largest thefts in the world. And so that when you start looking into, like, why do I spend time away from my family or leisure activity to earn fiat currency, these pieces of paper, these numbers in my account? Why do I do that? What is this thing we call money? And you look at the history of it and you recognize, like, there's some really corrupt people that have been involved in controlling not just the money, but specifically the credits and debits and the risk and the issuance of money itself, the interest rates related to that, that essentially gives them full control of the world. And when I started looking into this and realizing that this technology can actually make a dent because they can't stop it, it's kind of interesting in that way, that once it got out in the world and people started believing in it, it went from
Let's talk
0
about
to
block
1,
style.
something that we, because value is just shared
Yeah.
storytelling. It's just a story we all agree upon. Once it had a value, the first purchase of the Bitcoin, 10,000 Bitcoin for a pizza, first time anyone ever used it as money, as a store of value, as an issuance of exchange that way, that changed the world forever.
Ooh, British
So there's a couple things there, right, that I want
British
to point out. So ultimately,
I saw
right,
that help
the triple
like a
entry
Slavic
bookkeeping.
country thing.
Once you actually understand what that
Yeah.
is, right, you
Don't know.
recognize completely, like, this is not going away anytime soon, right? And you understand the importance of two things with that. You recognize the difference between a centralized blockchain and a decentralized blockchain. Because a centralized blockchain is that third entry. It's verified by the same party that's making the debts and the credits entry. So actually has no benefit. And then you also understand that the application of cryptocurrency is actually necessary.
It's that add-on
Because
thing.
that is the incentivization for the verification in the triple entry, right? So you have a lot of thought out there by a lot of people in various tech industries and financial services that claim they are interested in blockchain without cryptocurrency. And they don't understand that what that ultimately means is they'll have a centralized blockchain, which does no benefit whatsoever. It's essentially the same system that they're currently using, just, sounds better to appeal to the ignorant audience. So what would happen at a certain point is the market will become educated to decentralized blockchains and what is the triple entry, why it's actually important for there to be incentivization
God, I wanna listen
behind
to
it.
everything,
And the only
guys.
way you can have that application is through a form of cryptocurrency, right? And then people will clamor for it as the market matures.
I think that's one of the most important points. I make this point often. I'm really glad to hear you're making it out in Dubai as well. It's the idea that if someone says, I love blockchain technology, but that whole cryptocurrency, Ponzi, whatever, I'm not a supporter of that. If you hear that, and I hear it all the time from, people that should know better, journalists, people that are like in the industry even, they say these type of things. It immediately tells me they don't understand fundamentally what they're talking about.
Correct.
Because there's a game theory dynamic of the reward given to the validators in the form of cryptocurrency
This is
that
like
enable
every other crypto conference in Dubai. Just me here and then the speaker
Ability to-
looking into the speaker's eyes.
that went to there and we can trust the whole thing. If it's not secured by the actual reward, then you're not gonna have people interested in it. And so that's kind of like layer one, proof of work, delegated proof of stake, proof of stake. There's also this concept that's important for the philosophy of all this is the layer 0. That's the number of conscious human beings that actually believe what you're doing is valuable. If you don't capture that as a project, you don't actually have security. And I lived through this when I was a validator on what was called the Steam network. It's now
this
the
guy.
Hive network. And we had Justin Sun come in and basically
Oh, that's
bought
the Jack.
Steven.com, Steam Incorporated, and had about 20% of the tokens. Gave some misleading information to CZ over at Binance, and they voted with all those tokens to basically put in a bunch of 20-something sock puppet accounts that weren't real, and they took over the chain. And our whole community was like, and I was one of the 20 validators at the time, that, and it's a rotating, out of hundreds, but, based on the number of people that believe in what you're doing is valuable, you get voted in and delegated proof of stake. And we were just like, what the heck? This is no longer what we signed up for. And we had the ability to take everything and move over to what was then be the Hive blockchain. We took all the account balances, all the posts, it's like a social media blockchain. And it was an example for me of recognizing when you have layer 0, that's where your real security matters. Because they started censoring accounts, they started doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and people are like, hey, this is not what we signed up for.
So that layer 0 is you guys, is the community, right? So as long as you have community, right, you're gonna have
Layer
the larger
minus
the
one
community,
is the
especially in that
community
triple
love.
entry, is over 51% of that community or the network has to agree.
God, let's talk about your style. Just please look at these sleeves.
Oh no, it's a cover. It's like a little scarf. Yeah.
The transaction from wallet A to wallet B. Wallet A transacted a cell phone to wallet B. It no longer exists in wallet A, only exists in wallet B. Over 51%
I don't know,
network agrees to
Britanishka.
such
I don't know if
transaction.
you put
You get a piece
the
of the
Metaslavic
transaction.
flag on your
That's what the
profile
miners are.
having
This is
nothing
not so
to do with
technical,
Metaslavia.
really basic fundamental principles, understanding of what blockchains are. The other aspect of that is when you recognize what that is, you know what it is, you no longer invest in bullshit, right? Because then you know what, you don't need to put rainbows and unicorns on a blockchain. And just because somebody tells you they're decentralizing something or they are actually, they're doing this or putting, I don't want to pick on nobody, I'm not going to say anything, but I hear amazing concepts of people trying to raise money based on buzzwords and use of technology that is actually not applicable to the project that they're dealing with. And the truth is they take advantage of ignorant investors because people aren't really sure what a blockchain is. But when you understand it's only triple entry bookkeeping, right? You don't really need to know the technical aspect of it. Truth is, if you don't understand the technical aspect of it, no one can really explain it to you because it's really fucking technical, right? But from a philosophical standpoint, it's really simple. Triple entry bookkeeping, debts, credits, verification, right? The third entry is the network. Over 51% of the miners have to agree to transaction. They get rewarded with a piece of the transaction fee for confirming the transaction, right? Very simple. Now, that actually solves what was known as the double spending problem, which is what Satoshi set out to do. So if you read a 9-page piece of paper called a Satoshi white paper, it'll kind of clear up a lot of these thought processes. What all blockchain is, what it can be used for. But, right, there's one thing. Once these blockchains become mature and the technology advances, right, it's kind of like the use of electricity. When electricity was created, it didn't just solve whether or not you got light bulbs. Now we have microphones. Now we have DVDs, cameras. We have, screens. We have all sorts of cool things, microwaves, all things that we plug in to the wall because we have built electricity. That's what blockchain will do to other industries as the actual infrastructure layer is actually built. And you'll see that to be engulfed more and more later on as these things become a part of everyday society. It's a huge market in front of you. It's, projected to grow 10x over the next, 5 to 7 years. That's $10 trillion industry. It's something that you can get involved in at every layer, right? You don't need to just be an investor or a coder or programmer. There's so many different type of ways that you can get back into the industry and actually, be a part of it and not just buy and invest in crypto, but actually, make crypto by being ancillary to the industry as well. There's a lot of different ways to get active.
I'm fortunate enough to have been starting building websites in 1996 when I was in high school. I'm 43 and I was tinkering with this stuff during the whole .com craziness as well. When I was in college, I went to University of Pennsylvania. I was studying computer science and I had companies I was working for at the time. They're like, just quit your degree, go work for us. Everyone was convinced, this is the world. And they weren't wrong. They were just a little too early. And I see that a lot in the crypto space. The whole .com craziness was crazy. It was insane. Pets.com, all these examples. But ultimately, they weren't wrong. We still got the Googles, the Apples, the major organizations that define a big part of our reality today. The Amazons, these companies still came out of it. So when I look at this, Pedro's exactly right. When you look at something called the law of diffusion of innovation, you see the adoption of network-based technologies like this. They inevitably follow these same patterns when they've been doubling exponentially for, in this case, over a decade. We're about, getting close to that 4%, and you double that to 8%. That's the tipping point where it just takes off, and it's inevitable. It pervades all of society. So we couldn't even imagine when I was doing stuff in 96, like a guest book was a really big deal. Animated GIFs that you could make move as you moused over the menus was like, whoa, advanced technology, right? JavaScript was like, everyone's using it to do cool stuff, but we couldn't even imagine the stuff that we just take for granted today. I think it'd be similar with crypto, but going back even a little further than that, for me especially, and some of the kind of people that have been in this space, for a little while, it's funny to be called like an OG when you haven't even been around that long, but people use those terms. A lot of them think about this much deeper. And I'll never forget a talk I heard once where somebody described, they were up on stage,
listen to this.
Deeply emotional, describing...
Lukchuk, let's shut you down for now.
If you want to go ahead. We kind of explored was they've both been fringe until recently. Underground communities may have benefited. They don't necessarily understand everything. Cryptocurrency provides like a solution and a value exchange system for people that don't want to use traditional rails. And, psychedelics, for the most part, weren't allowed to use traditional rails, at least not above ground. So people like, as well as in the psychedelics industry, like there's a lot of people that really want to experiment with different, stakeholder capitalism or ways to distribute value throughout the whole value chain and not just extract value from into like purely for-profit side of things. I think that's so. It's really interesting to see these two industries kind of merge and where they have overlap.
Yeah, I mean, one other, overlap that I love is just like something that I hear you talk about a lot, which is this notion of cognitive liberty, right? Like, it's not the government's job to tell us what kind of money I can use, and it's not their job to tell us, what plants or mushrooms I can consume in my own living room. There's sort of like this requirement of open-mindedness, right, across the two. There's a lot of first principles thinkers, in each of them. It's like, you have to toss away so much cultural baggage and conditioning, like you've been talking about, to even ask this question of like, what is money? What is consciousness? And I think there's just so much interesting overlap there. So next question is going to go to Nick and then to Jeremy. So, Nick, just taking a look right now.
I'm excited about this channel.
At the Web3 movement. Like, there's so much anxiety and trauma that's happening, in this culture, between Terra and FTX. Like, I just kind of want to get a sense of, like, what's your take on mental health in Web3 right now?
What's the cut?
And what can we do to improve it using these psychedelic medicines?
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Ted. I see the opportunity for us to really decentralize the entire approach, both to mental wellness and wellness in general. I think that the tools that we've been given from the blockchain Web3 world really can be expanded beyond what we've seen in the initial rounds, which is really finance, currency.
You can do things simultaneously, so you can't even follow my attention span Twitter.
To see how it can really play out. We've seen a lot of issues really expand as far as anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress during COVID, post-COVID, during and post-Luna, FTX. We're really at a crucial time.
How about the
right now where
2022 February events?
More at the forefront.
Nobody
and
gives a
we've
fuck.
never had
Unless
such
it's
amazing
British
tools
who
to be
puts
able
like a
to
freaking flag
really
on her
offer up a decentralized
account.
method where we can really all as a community be a part of the mental wellness of this planet. We can all share. We can help somebody on the other side of the planet with a few clicks and not a lot of money and not a lot of friction. So I see this as a super opportunity that should not be wasted. I see that we can really leverage the power of the technology that we have right at our feet here and really expand it beyond what we've kind of become accustomed to within the crypto world, which is obviously moving value around. And now it can go a little further and actually be provided around services, and we can actually help people that we've never even met before. So the ability for people around the world to help other people around the world, whether they've met before, whether they're in the same country, the same language spoken, this is truly something that we've never seen or been able to have access to. So the way that we can leverage these technologies that are predominantly open source really is exciting to me, and I think we've never needed it more than now.
Totally agree that we have never needed it more, and appreciate all the work that you're doing to try and make this a reality. So Jeremy, coming to you next, I heard this awesome quote from you that said, "We need to make mental health a priority in the metaverse because ultimately the metaverse
you
is
can't
a
make
mindset
mental
more than
health priority in a metaverse because those two are like literally the opposites. You can't be mentally healthy in a metaverse.
Concept of the
Just can't.
has really only come to light in the past year or two. It was really Zuck and Facebook that brought it to the popular consciousness. But if you kind of rewind, Zuck and social media and smartphones, the internet have created what I consider the metaverse. The metaverse is not a place. It's not like Ready Player One. It is quite simply a point in time in which our realities become as much digital as they are physical. Where we spend,
Oh,
if you look
please.
at your screen time, you're spending, people spend 8 to 10 hours a day on their cell phones. We are in the metaverse. That is a metaverse. I mean, that is a digital realm that we exist in. We all have
please, you guys,
supercomputers in our
don't.
pockets. It's an extraordinary time to be alive, but it's insidious. We don't actually realize that we exist in this new dimension, this very hyper digital, hyper online world. It's already too late to go back. That's kind of my perspective here. We're not going to go back to an analog world, and thus we need to.
We will. Okay, deal with it.
It's existential that in a society, or for pretty much the entirety of human history, where we have not prioritized mental health. Physical health has been paramount because, that's the most likely cause of death and most needed for survival. But in an age of an abundance, in this new digital era, we really need to emphasize mental well-being, because so much of in this
Something's off with EOS. I don't know what it is. It's just, I mean, like every single other one. It's simply because maybe there are no network events happening, like in physical that I've been attending to. I would trust not the networks themselves, but the people that I would meet at the events. Okay. And I've only met like 2.5 people from the EOS network. So compared to like ETH people, and or Polkadot people like recently, like just how it is.
That illusory nature of space, like so apparent, and we're seeing that there's far less that separates us than, what there would have been previously. And now we have actual tools for like recognizing the truth of that. I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's incredibly powerful, the technology that we're holding in our hands, many of us, via a smartphone and through the World Wide Web. And we're really just getting started. We're just, if you can think of this as a new information era.
Guess what? Russia's like, okay. So I'm not gonna go. Yeah, this is. I'm gonna keep it to myself. This thought.
The nascency of it, and the decisions we make today.
It's like, Natalia, close your mouth now. Shut it down.
Lasting ramifications for society, and for humanity, and for the global world economy. Like it's so paramount that we emphasize people's well-beings while using the platforms that we're building online, especially with the growing immersion of artificial intelligence.
Beautiful. I love the picture that you're painting, for the future, and sort of staying in that theme. Brittany, one of the things that I want to ask you is like, you're someone who I've seen do just so much around like sustainable funding models, community-driven models, for impact causes. I mean, things like your work with luminaries like Alex Gray and others. I want you to just tell us a little bit more about how you envision these models working and sort of paint a picture for us of what the future looks like with us utilizing them.
Bleeding.
Yeah, well, thank you
bleeding.
so much for that.
Binance is bleeding. What is following is fucking death. Mark my words. Of Binance, yes.
In psychedelics, is that both industries and communities are so driven by passionate networks of people. These communities, I know all of us really lie in both of them. We are passionately driven about what we want to accomplish in the world, what we want to see for humanity, and therefore people come together to fund things much faster than we've ever seen. Since the rise of NFTs especially, we've started to see community funding models for issues that they care about or for projects that they want to see come to existence be funded within minutes, within hours, or at least within a couple days. And that's been absolutely incredible. I've been able to take part in NFT auctions that have raised millions of dollars for impact causes just on a live auction that's held on Clubhouse or Twitter Spaces. I've seen networks and communities of people that have never been monetized before
I like.
be offered an opportunity to participate in seeing a project go forward, and all of a sudden the entire project is funded just after putting it out there to the community and allowing that community to support something for the first time ever. So what we're really seeing is a way to galvanize a community that already exists and allow them to participate in the process. Nothing obviously could be more important than people learning more about how to sustain their own mental health and participate in that, and then be able to allow that for others. So I'm really excited about not just some of the projects that are going on being led by people here, but the future of the sustainability of this. And in general, impact causes often have big issues with sustainable funding models, but with Web3, when you have a community that is connected and can be incentivized through different tokenized models to continue to participate, it means that you always have a monetizable community. And I don't mean to make money off of in a for-profit way all of the time, but I mean to be able to fund the impact causes that everyone is so excited about. So there seems to be an almost endless opportunity for the first time in what Jeremy rightly described as the metaverse that we've all been participating in by living a digital life for so many years. Now we actually have a digital life where we can own and monetize the amount of contributions that we make to communities and participate in projects more actively than just an investor and a company or a donor and a nonprofit. The more that we get involved, the more opportunities we have. And that is what tokenized models, what NFT communities, NFT-driven DAOs, DAO projects and ways of decentralizing governance have really brought to us. And over the past year and a half, we've seen so many examples of that I know that this can be applied to any industry, but especially one that is as important and as passionate as the psychedelics community.
Beautiful. That's such a good segue into what I want to talk about next, which is a specific example of one of these community funding models. So Matt, I want to talk to you a little bit about DeSci specifically. And, DeSci or decentralized science is sort of this almost like new niche area that I'm just seeing quietly, like gaining so much credibility and moving forward really quickly. And, essentially what we're talking about here is like conducting research and experimentation via funding through NFTs or token sales, as opposed to going through like the traditional government funding or sort of grant writing processes. And some of the things that I think are just so cool about this DeSci movement is like, we see increased transparency, we see increased peer review, we see just more open science generally. Like, I know you've been involved with some cool projects like there's Molecule and SciDAO. I'm wondering, can you tell us a little bit more about, this sort of DeSci movement, projects that you think are interesting, and maybe just tell us like what the future holds sort of in this space?
Yeah, for sure. I love the DeSci. There's interesting because there's two different movements and they sound the same thing when you say it. There's like decentralized science, DeSci, DESCI, and there's also DeSci. There's like SciDAO. There's decentralized like psychedelic stuff within the decentralized science movement. So I recently said the words out loud to someone, and they were like, "Which one are you talking about?" But yeah, DeSci is like an open alternative to the current scientific system. It enables like this scientists to raise funds and run experiments and share data, as well as share ownership of a lot of the IP around there. You can have IP NFTs, and so those DAOs kind of enable this funding and transparency